What's up, everyone? In today's video, I am going to be showing you how I played with the Italian opening. I kind of messed it up, and my opponent played it really well. So let's get into the video. Um, before we get started, I just want to say that I am going to be trying to reach an ELO of 1,500 by the end of the year. So make sure to hit that subscribe button to join me on my journey. And now let's get started. So I started with the standard e4 for the Italian. My opponent played e5, which is the most common uh, way to respond to that. I then brought out my knight to f3, and then my opponent brought out his knight to c6 to protect his pawn. Then I brought out the bishop to with the aim of threatening this pawn right here. The f7 pawn is the weakest pawn in F's line. It's only defended by the king, and the knight and bishop together could capture it and maybe form kind of a fork here. So next, my opponent brought out his bishop, and I pushed. So a lot of people, they kind of wonder why you would bring out this pawn. There's a lot of people are like, why don't you develop your knight? I mean, then you could move it here, and you'll be more developed. But this pawn is a lot better because then it'll allow you to push your d pawn forward and kind of attack the bishop and pawn at the same time. So that's why it's useful. My opponent brought out his second knight to f6, and then I pushed. This might have been a mistake. I might have played this move a little too early. I think what I should have done was maybe move the pawn here so I could still push if I wanted to, but I open up my bishop for some later attacks. But I pushed, and that was probably my first mistake. I did force my opponent's bishop to leave though, and then I pushed again to try to threaten this knight right here, and then my biggest blunder is coming up. So I pushed right here with the pawn. The goal of this was, trap the knight. So it can't go here. There's a pawn. It can't go. It can't go here. There's another pawn. But I just didn't watch this. It was kind of a blunder. I wasn't really paying attention to the board, and it led to this situation where I'm now down by 3. And then right now you just gotta pay attention to the time because that's gonna become a factor later on. But I pushed my queen up, kind of put pressure on the knight, and then that forces my opponent back. I may be down a whole 3 points, but at least I am pushing my opponent back. His bishop has nowhere to go, and he's kind of retreating, and you kind of don't want to do that in chess. I'm starting to, my pieces are starting to gain more ground, and I like that. I mean, this move, looking back, wasn't the brightest. My opponent could have easily taken this pawn right here, as he has 2, uh, knights, but instead he decided to castle. It wasn't a terrible decision. I believe protection of your king is a key thing in chess. And then I brought out this knight. It's the only place it can go, and it protects the pawn at the same time. My opponent brought out this pawn. At the time, I was guessing, I don't know, to bring out the bishop somewhere, or maybe provide a place for the knight to retreat. But I wasn't really sure what that move was for. I then retreated my knight with the goal of this fork right here. A lot of people kind of fall for this. They don't really think of pawns as pieces that are capable of forks. But my opponent made a very smart move and kind of moved, and that was a really good decision. As you can see, let me just rewind a little bit. I am down on time a lot. I'm down 2 minutes. But then by the time we get to this move here, I've actually kind of caught up on time, and I may be down materially, but I'm starting to get an edge on time. I wasn't actually paying attention to that during the game because I thought I lost, but no. So then I decided to push again. This caused my opponent to retreat, and now I'm actually really pushing really well. I have him in full retreat, but I wanted to castle first. Then my opponent tried to break out, and I had to trade there. I guess maybe I could have waited for my opponent to come here and then push like push like this. Well, I decided to make the trade on my own, and then I was starting to think about maybe going to these two squares right here for checkmate. I had a queen lined up at this square, a bishop for this square, so I was kind of thinking I can get to either one of these squares and get that checkmate. I didn't think I would win by, taking the most points in this situation. Then my opponent brought out his, bishop to threaten my queen. I then decided this was the chance to go for this square. It would be a much easier checkmate, and I had to move the queen anyways. So I just needed to move this pawn up, and then move in the queen. Easy checkmate. But this my opponent was very skilled, and he knew I'm pretty sure he knew what I was up to. So then he brought out his knight to, threaten the queen. I moved up here, and then he brought the knight back to, protect his bishop. I was hoping I would get something like, I don't know, this, or like to have the bishop move anywhere. And then what I was gonna do was move the pawn up here to threaten the, bishop, or do something like this to put the checkmate into motion. The problem with this move right here was I knew the, knight could just move anyways, so it wasn't going to be that good of a move. But I was really thinking of doing this to, put the checkmate into play. I was hoping he would be too focused on defending his knight, and he wouldn't really be paying attention, but he brought the knight back to protect it, so then I decided to put the checkmate into play anyways, and this is where I get outplayed big time. He moved he moved the bishop out. Not only did it block the checkmate, which is what you want to do in this situation, but it threatened the queen and pinned the bishop behind it. I just had to move the queen back at this point, and now I'm just not doing really well. So now, he takes the bishop, and I just move the rook into a position where I was hoping to, apply pressure, but, I'm blundering a lot at this point, and I just didn't see this here. I lose that. My queen has to dodge now. And then during this situation, I didn't notice it, but my opponent's time was actually going down at a rapid rate. Or, I mean, both of our times were. So at this point right here, it's 1:30. He spent a good 45 seconds on this move right here, which turns out to be a blunder, ironically. I am still losing right now, and then I thought, what? And then I saw his time. It was actually like I just didn't really notice it because I was just looking because he outplayed me on the board for sure, and I was kind of focusing on that. But then I started getting hope with time, so I'm trying to take as many of his pieces away as possible to stop him from being able to checkmate. And I was trying to, just make some moves, keep my pieces alive. I was making a lot of blunders, but that's okay. And then I have him at 6 seconds. There's no way. If he was able to pull this off, that would have been amazing. But no, I don't know anyone that could checkmate someone in 6 seconds with 2 knights and a few pawns. And then now I'm just moving my king back and forth, trying to not give him enough time. And then at this point, I was actually getting completely scared. Looked like he might actually have the ability to pull this off. I think his mistake was, he didn't really use his pieces the most efficiently right here. I think this was a time where you have to sacrifice this this knight right here. Why do I keep doing that? This knight right here to take this pawn, and then somehow promote this pawn as quickly as you can with the use of your king and your knight. What he's doing right now is perfectly good, normal, or like good and effective if you're in the normal time and not with 2.7 seconds. And then now I'm just moving my king back and forth, and then I win on time. So I was totally outplayed on the board, but in chess, sometimes it's not the quality of the moves you make, but the quickness of what you make them. So everyone, thank you for watching today's video.